My name is Steven. This is my wife, Kim. What's your name? What's up, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Steven Hyder. This is my wife.
I'm Kim Hyder.
And this is the I Have My Doubts YouTube channel.
Today, we've got a good one for you. Our video is going to be about 10 strange Victorian superstitions.
Just to chime in before we get to the heart of the content, guys, the Victorian age is a time frame between the 1830s up until about the early 1900s. It's the age of basically Queen Victoria of England. Without further ado,
let's get into it.
Creepy stuff.
Okay, for our first superstition. In Victorian era homes in Europe and in the United States, when a death would occur in the home, family members would have to stop the clock in the death room and draw all the curtains in the house, or else they'd have bad luck.
That's really creepy, because if you really think about it, like, you're marking the time of the death. Like, just think of that, like, you're in your own home. You stop the clock when a family member or someone that you were close to died, and you drew the curtains to darken your house. Like, yeah, it's just a little creepy, you know? Just a teeny tiny bit.
Seriously, though, so, like, 2021 here, when you think about that, and you think about that environment and visualize it, you're like, horror movie.
Superstition number 2. In the Victorian age, if you fell asleep and you saw yourself in a dream, your death would soon follow.
It's definitely a weird one. But I can see it, though, because when you think about it, if you're looking into a mirror in your dream, you don't actually see yourself. You might see an outline of yourself, but you're blurry. Or you see something totally different and you launch into, like, a different part of the dream.
Yeah, I'm just trying to conceptualize that. I don't think I've ever saw myself in a dream. Like, I've heard of out-of-body experiences where you're conscious and you're floating over yourself, or you're in a semi-conscious state. I don't know.
But then technically that's not... I think you're thinking of, like, astral projection.
Yeah.
And that's not sleeping. You're not actually asleep. Superstition number 3. If you dream about a birth, someone you know will die.
That's morbid. That is really, really morbid. I mean, what a way of celebrating life. Yay, a birth's coming, but someone I know has to die.
But, like, think about it. How do you not dream about... Like, what if half of your friends are all pregnant and you're, like, really excited for them and you dream about it?
The other half are goners. Superstition number 4. Large drops of rain, this is important, not small drops, large drops of rain means someone has died.
So, what you're saying is a lot of people died yesterday when it was raining.
I don't know, that's an odd one to me, and, like, what's the standard? I mean, I think we all agree, like, when we, like, man, there's some large drops of rain, but, like, what if there's an in-between? Like, how do you, I don't know. That sounds definitely like a wives' tale to me, or a fisherman's tale.
Superstition number 5. If a dog is howling at night when someone is sick in the house, it is a bad omen.
Hang on. My dog? Or, like, my neighbor's dog can mess me up?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just like any dog within a certain mile radius?
That's messed up. My neighbor dog can give me bad fortune. Superstition number 6. If you hear 3 knocks and no one is there, that usually means someone close to you is going to die. The superstitious among us might call this the 3 knocks of death.
Now, hang on. Is it like a knock on the wall, or is it somebody knocking on the door? Because, I mean, if I'm hearing somebody knocking in the room that I'm sitting in and I'm the only one there, I'm thinking demons. But if it's somebody knocking on the door and I go to the door and nobody's there, I'm thinking ding dong ditch.
I think it's 3 knocks in general. That's kind of weird, because I normally think of that as the mocking of the Trinity. That's what I normally hear on supernatural shows, is that's the mocking of the Trinity. But Obviously, in the Victorian age, it meant something a little different. Although the superstition is clearly held on the idea of three succession knockings.
Okay. Superstition number 7. The deceased should be carried feet first out of the house. This prevents them from looking back into the home and possessing someone to follow them into the grave.
Also, kind of interesting because I think even today, if I remember, I mean, I was a pallbearer like once. I think you still carry people feet first out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you absolutely do. And it's interesting, though, that they would look back because it was a common theme that, like, they'd be shrouded. So how could they look back if their faces and stuff were covered?
Superstition number 8. During the Victorian age, photos of family members were turned face down, so that way the soul of the deceased could not possess family members.
You know, that's fascinating. And it actually came from when they invented the camera. A lot of people thought that getting your picture taken would steal your soul. And so that superstition kind of stemmed from that whole, the camera will steal your soul.
So a lot of souls have been taken.
Superstition number 9. If the deceased has lived a good life, flowers are said to bloom on their grave. But if they had been evil in their life, it is said that only weeds will grow.
That's like literally every dark depiction of every horror film, like the cemetery, the gate, a crow comes caulking across the screen. They zoom in on the grave, and there's weeds.
And honestly, I feel like that's more a poor groundskeeping issue than, oh no, they were evil.
Still fascinating to learn where that superstition comes from, though.
Mm-hmm.
If you made it this far, if I can ask you to do a couple things for us. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment down below. But with that, guys, we've made it to the end of the road. Superstition number 10. Mirrors should be covered to prevent the deceased's spirit from being trapped inside the mirror.
So I wonder if that's where the Bloody Mary myth came from. You know, we all did it in like middle school. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Was she just mad because she got trapped in a mirror?
I don't know if it's that, but I mean, there are a lot of like the movies where they talk about that, where they would cover the glasses, and like I have seen that before, like depicted in movies. So I think it's definitely interesting. But I want to get around now, guys, that we have you on the line here. I want to talk about some bonus things that we've learned from doing this research, because there's definitely some really interesting facts that we've learned. To begin with, I thought it was absolutely fascinating when you look over the idea of spiritualism and like its involvement over the Victorian age, is the fact that world leaders were like involved in this. This wasn't just the common folk. Like in the White House, you have Mary Lincoln holding seances to communicate with her deceased son.
And then over in Europe, you had Queen Victoria that was holding seances to try to communicate with her deceased husband. Mm-hmm. And no joke, when he passed, she wore black for the rest of her life and stayed in a state of perpetual mourning.
Yeah. There's the burial wreath that was hung on doors. The entire concept of how we're buried, with our heads to the west and our feet to the east, it was partially started by the Victorians. I mean, it comes out of the idea of the resurrection, guys, but nonetheless, like Victorians kind of made that a popularized thing. I mean, there's definitely a lot of interesting things. The idea of a wake.
Mm-hmm. The wake, to make sure that someone was actually dead. They weren't sure if they fell into a coma. And if they still weren't sure, most people were buried with some sort of bell or chime that they could pull on if they woke up and they were buried alive.
Mm-hmm. And then that just kind of ties into the last thing I'll say before we jump off here today, guys, which is the ornate...
Grotesque.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Grotesque, yeah.
The grotesque, like, burials and the grotesque, like, stonework that you'll find at these cemeteries. And I mean, very much, even like the pretty things, like the cherubs and stuff like that. I mean, this was kind of popularized during this time frame. Like, this idea of mourning death really seems to have exploded during this time frame. which was really interesting. Anyways, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next video.
Bye.